Ah, finally! The Nuka regiment is not in a backwater feudal world. Hello, guardsmen. There's nothing like a cup of Libra tea. Day 1. I hate my life. Day 2. Over the top. Day 15. I have re-established myself with the Kriegsmen. Having slayed a corn berserker with a shovel has gained me their respect once again. Good thing they didn't notice he slipped on the artillery shells and landed on an upright shovel. That's why. Wear a helmet, boys. Day 43. The Kriegsman gave me this, a spear javelin, and showed me a mutated dog. They told me we're going hunting in the morning. Day 44. They didn't tell me it was a fragging titan. Day 45. The titan is no longer an issue. It's knee-deep in mud. The cultists have been spending all day trying to dig it out. Day 46. I've come with a brilliant plan to take out the Titan. Kriegsman, put this on.
And that's why I fear it won't do. And they say that a hero can save us.
Day 106. For single-handedly taking out the Titan, I have been gifted my own war dog horse bird hybrid. I've named him Diedrich the Brave. Now let's paint him. Step 0. I will not take any more heretical comments about me not priming my minis. As you can see, the base is gray. I primed it in Mechanicus Standard Gray Rattle Can. Step 1. We're gonna get Tusker fur and we are gonna paint the entire Krieger horse in it. I am so excited because this is what's gonna really make the horse pop out later, and it's literally gonna take you like 5 minutes to do this whole thing. Now it is time to make that horse pale, and we're gonna use deepkin flesh. You're gonna put it on a paper plate, and you wanna add some water to the mix until it becomes this ink-like substance. Then you're gonna wanna use the makeup sponge, and this is gonna make the world of difference. You're gonna get that makeup sponge, and you're just gonna tap it in that watery mix. You don't want too much on that sponge because you want it to just kind of dry brush on that horse. Next, you're just gonna get your horse, and you're just gonna tap it on there, kind of like in this motion. And you're just going to dry brush it, or not dry brush it, like dry sponge it all over the horse. And this is going to build up color brighter and brighter and brighter until you get all of those highlights on the horse. This process literally took me just a few minutes to do, and it looks great. It's very gradual with the colors. It blends really nice. I really love this step. But there is some areas that are difficult to reach, and that is where you're gonna wanna use your brush. But you want your brush to be very, very dry. Because if it's watery, it's gonna leave this weird watery residue of that white, pale color on the horse. So make sure that when you use your brush, you try to make it as dry as possible, and then you're just gonna dry brush it in those areas that you couldn't reach with the sponge. Now, if you accidentally painted in that brand mark on the horse, just go back to that Tusker fur, water it down until it's an ink-like substance, get your brush, and just kind of have it seep into those creases of that brand mark. And you want the middle of that brand mark to be lighter and closer to the skin color. Now it's time to base the leather. We're gonna base all leather in dryad bark. I did this as well for the trench coat on the Krieger, his boots, and the saddle on the horse. Now, some of those are harder to reach and we do not want to get paint on that horse. So make sure you water down that dried bark just slightly so that when you use your brush, it's just gonna glaze on there easier so you can get into those fine areas. You're going to want to base all of the metal in Iron Warriors. So for the Krieger himself, we're going to base the shoulders in Iron Warriors, as well as the helmet and the cuirass that's on the chest. I also painted the bracers, but I didn't show it. Now, where that gas mask piece connects to the hose, this connector piece, I decided to paint this metal on the Krieger as well as the horse. Now, where those little grenade things, launcher things on the horse is, I don't know if it's a grenade launcher, a giant screw, or a flashlight. I don't know, but I decided to paint that metal as well. And if you do know what those are, let me know in the comments below. We are going to want to base the gas mask for both the Krieger and the horse in administratum gray. But to make sure that your paint is just slightly watered down so it goes on all nice and smooth. And for me, it took about 2 to 3 coats. For the armor on the horse, I based it in Death Korps drab. This includes the entire chest piece, part of that mouthpiece, and on the head as well. I did that because for my original Kriegers that I painted, that I also have a tutorial on, I painted this green and the shoulders green as well, and I think that'll be kind of a nice tie-in for them. For the hoses on the gas mask, we're gonna base it in Abaddon Black. Now, if you don't want to do highlighting on that later, you can just base it now in Administratum Gray and just put Contrast Black Templar over it, and that would just get all the recesses, leaving that lighter gray on the edges. But in this Administratum Improved tutorial, we are basing it in Abaddon Black. For now, we are going to base the eyes in Mephiston Red for both the horse and the Krieger. Now, we are later going to add a piercing glow to it, but for now, this is what we're going to do. We are going to use Balthazar Gold, or I like to call it Balthazar Bronze, and you're going to want to paint the plume on top of the helmet in it, as well as the Imperialis symbol on the helmet on the Krieger and on the chest on the horse. Now it's time for a wash. We're gonna use Agrax Earthshade, but we do not want to get it on the horse's skin or it's going to ruin that pale pink that we have and it's just gonna look ugly. So you're gonna wanna use a medium-sized brush to do the wash so you're a little bit more pinpointed on there. I've also had some of you guys say, oh, it ends up looking shiny. So make sure that you shake your bottle well before you do it or it will leave a shiny finish. Oh, and if it builds up too much in one area, just get a dry brush and soak up just some of it so that it doesn't leave gross watermarks. Now it's time for highlights. We're going to start off with Eshin Gray, which is like a dark brown. We use a slightly smaller to a medium-sized brush, and we're gonna get off all of that excess paint using a paper towel. We want barely any paint on your brush. And you're going to dry brush it on the coat as well as the boots on the Krieger. You're just gonna dry brush and you wanna hit all of those major highlights and the edges with this dry brush. And you can build up color, because where the sun would hit it most is most likely gonna be a lighter shade. So you can just dry brush a little bit more on those Krieger thigh areas where that coat is on, and on some of those edges as well. Now for those hard to reach areas, you're probably going to switch over to a smaller brush, and you can just hit those in some of those highlighted areas. For even brighter highlights, we're going to use Mechanicus Standard Gray. We want to water this down just slightly until it's an ink-like substance. And we want to do the brightest of highlights on the trench coat as well as the boots. Now, you're just going to hit all of the sharp edges, and I also just wanted to add some scratches as well, and this is your perfect time to do so. So I just did some light scratches throughout the coat as well as the boots. Now for the legs themselves, I want it to be a slightly different color. So we want to hit major areas of highlights on the legs. So if this was like the fold, you would highlight this entire area, leaving this alone. And if you see like on the leg, this whole area is hitting the sun as well, and that knee. So you can brighten this area up all the way, leaving this kind of bottom back area alone and the creases. Oh, and I don't know if you noticed this, but Mechanicus Standard Gray has been changing over time. It used to be much brighter. For highlights on the leather, we are going to use Steel Legion Drab. Now you want to use a medium to a larger brush, and you want to get a paper towel to get off all of that excess paint off your brush until there's barely any paint on there. And you want to dry brush it all over the leather, really hitting a lot of those edges and some of the sun damage that would brighten up that leather as well. Now on some of those leather straps, they are hard to hit those edges. Now if it's like this, you just want to go in the opposite direction with your brush, and you're just going to tap it in just the opposite direction, and that's just going to hit those edges, kind of leaving that middle area alone. Once you're done with that, you're going to get a smaller brush, like a small fine pointy one. Want to water down the Steel Legion Drab until it's an ink-like substance. And here you can do light scratches throughout the leather. We're going to use Storm Hose Silver or just a bright silver. Now I don't want to take away from the Iron Warriors after the wash on the Krieger because it already looks really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that bright silver, and we're just going to tap it along the edges. When you're just tapping, it's just going to be a little bit rugged, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want it to look like a clean line. I also just added light scratches throughout. I did this as well on the helmet. Now where it's on the very top of the helmet, where it hit the brightest, I did just add a little bit of a bright highlight on that very top area as well, next to the plume. Now for that connector piece on the gas mask to the O's, I did brighten that up in metal as well. Now there are a few metal areas on the horse that you're also going to want to highlight with the Storm Hose Silver as well. To make the hose stand out, I decided to use Dawn Stone, which is like a medium gray. Now I did just kind of paint it to hit all those edges, but I would probably just use the side of your brush to hit it, and that would be a little bit less messy than what I did. And if you want, you can actually use a dark blue for this step instead of the gray, and it would look really good too. For this step, I would usually use Straken green, but mine is cooked, so we improvise, adapt, overcome. We're gonna use an equal mixture of Death Korps strap with Elysian green. We want to water this down just slightly until it's an ink-like substance. And you're just gonna hit all of those edges that has the green armor on the horse. So I just did a messy, hit all of those edges, did some scratches, and then I just blotched in some major areas of highlights on the horse as well in that upper chest area, as well as the head and on the nose part. Now, you can go back with a slightly more mix, like 2/3 Elysian green to Death Korps strap, or just use pure Elysian green. And here you can do some bright highlights, like along certain edges, and some scratches throughout on the green armor. For this step, I actually meant to use administratum gray, but I used deepkin flesh. Then it was totally not on accident. For this, you're just gonna wanna water it down just slightly until it's an ink-like substance. That way it's just gonna go and glaze on nicely on the areas that have the gas mask. Now, the deepkin flesh actually ended up looking a lot better than expected, and I had no idea I did that until I watched the recording. So, that's what we're gonna use. Or you could just use the administratum gray, and you're just gonna wanna hit a lot of those major areas of highlights. Now, I really kind of left this bottom area alone because I want it to be dark, and I brightened up this area along the top to really make it stand out. Now, to start off that piercing glow in the eyes, we're going to get Emperor's Children, or just a pink. You can just mix Beast and Red in with some white. And you're going to want to paint kind of a larger portion in the eyes in that pink. And I just tapped it in, making a rough circle. I did the exact same thing for the Krieger as well. Next, you want to get a pure white. You want to water this down just slightly so that it doesn't go on thick and chunky. So make sure it goes on all nice and smooth. And you're just going to want to paint within that pink area. You do this for the horse as well as the Krieger as well. Just do your absolute best to get into the Krieger's eyes because it is so difficult, but it is still easier than painting eyes. After that, you're gonna get contrast Blood Angels Red. But we're gonna wanna water down this pigment until it's like this pale pink, and you're just gonna add water to it. And you're gonna go over that entire area of the eye. And this is gonna do a lot of the blending for you so that it kind of builds up into that bright glow. I did this on the horse as well as the Krieger, and I did some of that surrounding area as well. Now with the pure contrast Blood Angels Red, not watered down at all, I went ahead and I went into all of those creases into the eye, as well as kind of like on that eyelid area that's just metal, and that upper area above the eye as well. I also did this for the Krieger, which is mostly just kind of along the bottom. And you want that to be a dark red, and you can always build that up a little bit darker with that contrast Blood Angels Red once it dries. Now you want to go back to the pink, or you can just use some of that contrast Blood Angels Red that you have left over and mix that in with some white until it's a pale pink. And you're just gonna tap it, not too much or it's gonna look bad, just a little bit on some of that darker area of that red to make it look like a little of that glow came out. And just gonna hit it along some of those edges. Now, if you really want to seal in the deal, you can get the pure white that's slightly watered down and just hit just a little bit of area within that white that you painted previously to really make it stick out. Remember, it's heresy not to like, subscribe to this video. And if you want even more content, check out my gaming channel at Nuka Kitten Gaming. Bye!